the title of this presentation is Building Your Communications Toolkit on a DIY Budget, because I know counties are limited on what they have, and a lot of counties don't have a dedicated communications staffer. If you do, that's great, and I would highly recommend you do that if you're able to. If you sat in the IT presentation that Judge Onan led, they talked about, the benefits, the cost-benefit analysis on do you have a dedicated IT staffer, because you're going to have a cybersecurity risk that could totally jeopardize your budget, throw all of your operations out of whack. So is it worth having a dedicated IT staffer on board 24/7 that you can call on? Yes, right? Same thing I would think would be true of communications. In this day and age, people expect to have information at their fingertips, and so we, as government officials, should be responsive to that. But I know that budgets are tight. So we're gonna see what can we do with the limited resources that we have. All right, a little bit about me. I've been at KACo for a little over 2 years now. I actually started out in the news media. So Dan and I had a good conversation when I went down to Harlan County a couple weeks ago. We were talking shop because he worked in the TV business for WYMT, and I was in the radio business right around the same time. So I started out at WHAS Radio here in Louisville, and then I'm from Lexington, and I got a job at WUKY Radio. That's the NPR affiliate. Then I was fortunate to go work for Lexington Fayette Urban County Government, emphasis on the county. Worked in the mayor's office there for a few years, transitioned over to the Lexington Police Department, and you see that I'm there with a big old camera. Did that for a few years. Worked as a public relations consultant doing work for the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, so Mountain Parkway, iMove, Bridging Kentucky, so a lot of the things that Secretary Gray was talking about, I had a hand in some way in the past few years on shaping the communications with that. And now, like Jim likes to say, I work for counties. So whatever you all need, I'm happy to do, and it's been fun. So I love working for KACo, and it's a great organization. Last year, you may remember, if you saw my presentation last year, I showed a video that I was pretty proud of. It was real goofy because I was in it, of singing police officers, right? It was a public service announcement, so I was really focused on creative social media and thinking outside the box. So I dug back in the archives this time around since it's basketball season. Coach Pope's got the Cats on fire. We just beat Duke. Everything's going great. Yes. Go Cats. Go Cats. So that previous picture with the police officer standing next to me with the camera was because we were going out to State Street. Anybody heard of State Street, the UK's campus, right? And I was like, I want to go take some pictures. This will be fun. Well, early on, like the first year of doing it, they were worried about me. And so they thought I needed like an escort. So that was Officer Howard Florence that was standing next to me. And there are times at the beginning of, State Street celebrations, it's fun. You see everybody, all the students like to take pictures with the cops, right? The media's out. So this is former Police Chief Mark Barnard. That's who hired me at the police department. Do you all see who's standing next to him? You recognize that? That's Jim Gray. So before he was Secretary Jim Gray and talking to you all about roads and bridges, he was dealing with drunk college students setting couches on fire on State Street. So anyways, life of a local official, you never know what's going to happen. So sometimes the students and the youth would cooperate and they'd like the police officers, everything's good, and then they don't, right? Someone said, Brenna, that looks like you that's flipping the bird there. That is not me. I took this picture, okay? Okay, so sometimes things get wild. So the coolest picture I think I ever took while I was at the police department was this one. Might be a little bit difficult to see here in the room. They look like stormtroopers. So at the end of the night, The police, like, we let them have their fun, you know, maybe a little small fire that we can put out easily, get it all out of the system, right? But then at the end of the night, we're like, okay, let's bring in the street sweepers. And that's when everyone's just like, oh, thank goodness, we can leave. So this is some of our officers all decked out in their gear, and they're backlit by the street sweepers, so that was pretty cool. This was before 2020 with the civil unrest that happened, you know, and I don't know that I could post a picture like this now. People might react to it a little bit differently, and certainly I had to provide some context that this was, you know, at the end of a celebratory night. But anyways, I share all that because who knows, maybe State Street might be on fire a lot more this year. So let's hope. Okay. I've heard a lot, and something that Jim emphasized to me even when I first started at KACo, and I'm really pleased to hear it a lot at the conference, is the importance of telling the county story. Telling the county story. What do counties do? What do you all do day in and day out for your constituents, for your residents? Because there's a lot that people don't know about what goes on into being a sheriff, a county clerk, a magistrate, judge executive. They don't know. So it's our job, and it's your job, to tell that story consistently to your residents, okay? It's hard for someone to be engaged. We talk a lot about how people aren't engaged with government. They don't know about civics. They don't know. They don't know what they don't know, and it's hard for people to be engaged if you're not telling them anything, right? So if you want to have an engaged electorate, an engaged community that's weighing in, providing good feedback, you got to have that conversation. And I know it can be really hard, especially in the age of social media. And I was in that presentation on the legal pitfalls that you can get into with social media. I understand, because I have been there where I have had to look away from all of the comments. Don't read the comments, right? But I think there's more good out there with communicating and being proactive with telling your story than the potential negative feedback that you may get. And some of that may be warranted, you know, critical feedback, constructive feedback that can help us. If we can answer those questions that people may have, we can turn what may seem as a negative into a positive. And I'll show you a couple of examples of that as we get through the presentation. So first, before we get into like how we communicate, we always got to start with who we're communicating with, understanding your audience. Who are you talking to, and how do they communicate? We talk about this all the time as a communications team within KACo. How best can we get this information to you all? And my job as a communications professional has changed quite a bit over the years, where when I was at the police department, I did a lot with social media. I did a lot more videos and going out to things, and I didn't never do newsletters. I didn't use constant contact a lot. And now we rely on that a lot because we know that's how we are able to get information to you all. And text alerts and things like that, there's all kinds of things. But think about who is your audience, how do they communicate, how can you best meet them where they are? And you have a lot of diverse demographics and stakeholder groups that you're trying to reach. Property owners, the media, your civic partners, right? Visitors that are coming to our communities, business owners, potentially new businesses that you want to attract to your communities. Of course, the residents and legislators in Frankfurt and in Washington, D.C. You're not going to have the same message for each one of those. And even within your residents, right? I've heard people talk about, I'm going to go talk to my students at the school, elementary, middle, high school. Even within that group, you're going to talk to them differently because they have different perspectives based on where they are in life, right? So take all of that into consideration. And I always like to have, and we ourselves as county officials, maybe we can get down in the weeds and not see the forest through the trees sometimes. And so I always like to have a check and I ask someone, hey, does this make sense? I think we all have that person that we can trust to give us honest feedback, like, the tone ain't right on that, or I'm confused, I think we missed the mark here, are we sure? And for me, for a lot of my life, that's been my mom. If I can show my mom this, because she's actually not on social media at all, she kind of stays away from some of that. So if it's shown up, if there's an issue or something that's shown up on her radar and she understands it or she's interested in this, then I'm like, okay, a lot of people must be talking about it if my mom knows about it. And I trust my mom to, she's going to be nice to me, but also she's going to, tell me if I need to do something better. So it's good to have that person that you can have a sounding board. There we go. Okay. And then crafting your message. Before you start just typing away and posting things, let's take a step back. Why are we here? What are we doing this for? What do we want people to know? And what's our end goal here? Even when we had our big presentation in Frankfurt this week, the KACo legislative priorities, have y'all heard about that? That's been mentioned a few times this week maybe, right? We did a great job. It was awesome. If you haven't watched it, I know everyone said, go watch this, go watch this. It was good because we came in there before we even start putting the slides together, the talking points. We got to think about, okay, who's our audience? Who are we talking to? What do they already know and what have they heard from us before? What do they want to hear from us? What are we hoping to get out of it? Okay? All of that you got to shape in your mind before you start putting words on paper. Clear, concise, and consistent, okay? It sounds so simple, but we have to remind ourselves of that, right? Don't get too bogged down with jargon. Keep it simple. Be concise, okay? Again, it's such a great example this week. The other organization that presented on the same day as us, as KACo.
You can say their name.
Okay.
KLC.
Okay. Y'all know, it's KLC. I would say that they were not clear, concise. They were consistent in that they were too long. That was the consistent part of that. And it showed, the differences were very clear. And, that shows, and legislators took notice. I will say, in terms of being consistent, the public has a short attention span. And so you got to tell them what you're going to tell them, you got to tell them, and then you got to tell them what you told them. Over and over again. Because again, they have to hear it multiple times, hear it different ways for people to be able to retain that and remember it. Oh yeah, I think I heard about that. What's going on? Okay, how can we get this message out, right? There are lots of different ways, lots of tools that we can use. Certainly social media is one of them. But let's not forget, email works, doing speeches, press releases. How many of you all have would you say, a good relationship with your local media? Okay, that's good. How many of you do you think you have a bad relationship? So, little side part of this conversation. As a former reporter, I'm always going to, advocate for, try to talk to the media. If they ask you for a statement, try to give them one. Try to work on their deadlines. They always wanted something 5 minutes ago. They want to get you on camera right now. But they're there, and they can help you tell your story, if you work with them. They've got a job to do. Most of them understand that, if you need time to put something together, they'll respect that. But it's good if you can establish that relationship, early on before you're in a crisis situation. So that way they know who you are as a person and not just this elected official. So you can send out a press release. Mailers still work, If you get that explainer when you get your tax bill, right, that's really good at helping people understand how does this work? What am I getting? So putting something in someone's hands is still good too. Because like I said, my mom's not on social media. She's not gonna see it, but she does get her mail. Everybody gets the mail. And then posters, think about putting something up, in your county courthouse, in your customer service areas. Maybe posting it, in the library, someplace, a community gathering spot, right? In the senior citizen center. So all these different things, like we have to think about, okay, we've got the message, now what is the vehicle to get that message to the most people in the way that we want it so they can understand it? Real quick, these are the things that our team uses most frequently that I want to talk to you about. So for our emails, if you get our County Line weekly email, we use a service called Constant Contact. MailChimp is out there. So that's an email service that you can blast things out, and it won't make your email mad, because if you try and send out a bunch of emails just through like Outlook or something, that might not be good. So we use Constant Contact. There's certainly other email services out there that you can try. Canva. Canva is really good, especially if you don't have graphic design expertise. And even if you do, it's a very good tool. There's a free version and then there's a paid version. Within that, you can get stock photos, design templates. You can even do video now. So, it's good. I made this presentation using Canva, right? So it's an awesome tool. Try it out. The Adobe suite, so that's your like Photoshop, Premiere, that's what I edit videos in. They have all kinds of tools. So the Adobe suite, that's what we're using. And then AI. I'm gonna save that for the end of the presentation because I know people are like, what? I don't trust it. I was there too. I did not trust it. I was like, this is gonna take my job. I'm gonna be replaced by a robot. But all these things, and I mention this because when I went to journalism school, we didn't go over this in class. I certainly didn't know about email marketing. Canva didn't exist, and I wasn't a graphic design major. I was in radio, right? And I didn't know how to take pictures. So I say all that is that I learned that along the way. You can learn all this too, right? You really can, if you have an interest in it. And you learn by doing, okay? The more you do, try it out. I got started taking pictures because I wanted to have photos of my kids when they were babies. So now it's led to this, so. Anybody know what this is from? Can you see it? Might be a little hard to see. Back to the Future, yes. It's my favorite movie. So Marty, it's 1985. He goes back in time, and Doc Brown is like, well, future boy, who's president of the United States in 1985? What does he say?
I don't remember.
Stop.
I know the president was. I don't know if he said that. Did he say that?
Yes, he says.
Ronald Reagan?
It's Ronald Reagan. And then Doc Brown says, Ronald Reagan, the actor? Yes, he doesn't believe him. Okay, but then later, Marty has his little camera device, and they're watching back what happens when the time machine goes back, and they realize they need all the gigawatts to get back, right? All the energy that it takes. And so he's looking at it, and he says, a portable television studio. He says, no wonder your president has to be an actor. He's got to look good on television. So I think that's funny because that's kind of a big camera. And now, everybody has a portable television studio, okay? You can do everything that I've talked about, you can do with your phone. And I'm gonna sound like a walking ad for Apple, but I have the new iPhone. If you have like a 15 or a 16, especially like, I've been shooting a lot of stuff and walking around like a paparazzi, like sneaking in, taking photos of you all with my phone because it's so good. The technology has improved so much. Taking 4K video, super high-res video, really crisp pictures that you can switch back and forth and do portrait mode and all kinds of creative things and color correction, and you can live stream, right? All this stuff. This is your portable television studio right in the palm of your hand. So all this stuff, you've got the tools at your fingertips already. Took this photo of our new KACo president with an iPhone. Our past president, David Livingston, his cover photo for the County Line magazine, we took that with an iPhone too. So it's really good. Like you can, so just play around with it, you all. Like I'm telling you, there's all kinds of, and even the functionality of video editing and editing photos, you've already got it built in on your phone. Okay, you just got to take some time and play with it. Okay, now I want to get into going back to that slide where I talked about all the different ways that you can deliver your message. And I'm going to just briefly quick flash through some of the things that I see you all doing in real life, real world application of this. So this is Judge Taylor at his State of the County address, which I think is cool. You all do more State of the County addresses. Go out with your local chamber, host an event, get people together, a nice speech, kind of recap of what's happening in the county. Toot your own horn, okay? Make it an event that people can hear. So that's a speech, right? That's one way we can deliver our message to folks, especially if you can get together the leaders of your community. Let them hear. Everybody feel good. Get those shout outs in there. This is from Judge Onan. He's got the little slogan, "Did you see this? Union County," right? So I saw this, and y'all are building a Renaissance corner, right? Looks like it's going to be a beautiful project. But I guess they poured some concrete, and it did not cure correctly, right? So Judge Onan says, after the concrete was finished and inspected, the team and I expressed to our contractors that we were unhappy with the finished concrete product and requested they redo that aspect of the project. Okay, so he's got pictures. But he's letting people know, hey, we're on top of it. We're not happy with this either. There might be some delays, but we're going to get it right, okay? I love it. It's great. This is that inside stuff that people want to know. They wouldn't know unless maybe someone starts a rumor or whatever that, hey, this project, we're spending all this money on it. They got cracks in the concrete already. Get out in front of it. Address the issue. Say, we're on top of it. Judge Lewis getting on there, letting people know about some sirens that were going off, I guess, and did a little video. Just talking to people directly. That's the thing with communications. Don't be nervous about it. You're just having pretend like you're having a one-on-one conversation with your family, with your friends, okay? Boone County, they've posted a survey that they want input on county services and programs so they know what we're doing well and what they can improve on. That's great. It's all great. Rowan County, you all have the best little newsletter. I love it. The Rowan Review. That's great. I hope you all do this, even self-serving from a KACo perspective, because I don't know if you've picked up on when you see our County Line Weekly and we do This Week in Pictures. We're scrolling heavily and we're looking for what's happening in your counties so that way we can share it out. We want other people to know too. So I'm seeing it. So the more you all post, let us know. This is great. A newsletter. Jason Denny, Anderson County Clerk. Some of y'all be thinking like, okay, Brenna, this is all cool, right? But does any of this matter? Is anybody like following along, or what's the real world impact here, okay? Anderson County had the highest turnout, right? On early voting and election day. Almost 69%. Best in the state. But I asked them, what are you doing, Jason? And they're doing mailers. They've got a PR firm that's helping them with their social media, doing videos, creative videos where they're getting other people in the community involved, so then they're sharing it out, right, on their Facebook pages. And you're putting some money into it too, right? Can I say it? It's like, it's $20,000, you know? But that gets the word out to people, right? We saw that direct correlation. If you let people know, they will come. Build it, they will come, okay? So all this communication matters. Okay, real quick, but we are a little ahead of schedule, right? Okay, no, we're not. I'm sorry. I got 2 minutes, Jim. Okay. Back to AI. When I first heard about it, it was my husband who told me, and he said, give me an idea for a press release. What's something that you would write? And I said, okay, draft us a press release about the new budget. And let's say we got a $5 million budget with an emphasis on public safety, parks, and infrastructure, road paving, right? And that's all he inputted into this thing called ChatGPT. And boom, it had a press release that had like quotes in there. It was structured right, had good paragraphs and tone and everything. I was like, oh my gosh, this is scary. Over the past year, so I first was very skeptical of AI, and you should still be skeptical of AI, but I've been using it. I will tell you, I have been using it more and more. Just for kicks, I asked ChatGPT, make a photo of county officials looking at the 50th anniversary KACo cake, which at first glance you're like, oh, that's kind of neat. But it's also a little weird. If you look at it, everybody's face is distorted, and someone's got 2 right hands down there at the bottom. It's weird, right? So AI is still new, but it is here to stay. And I would encourage you all to look into things like ChatGPT or Gemini, because there's some useful tools in there. And for an example, so I asked ChatGPT, right there at the top, you can see it. I said, write a social media post about free tire disposal day on Saturday, November 16th from 8 a.m. to noon at the county transfer station. That's all I inputted. All of that you see at the bottom there is the suggested copy that I could, take and put into a social media post. It was instantaneous. It came up with that right then and there because it's pulling from other things that it has seen in the public space online, right? So it's a good tool to use for things like social media. Sometimes if I get writer's block or if I need inspiration on maybe questions I could ask in an interview, you can interact with it that way and it will help you. So give AI a chance. Okay, real quick. I know I'm running out of time. I want to play this for you and see what you think. I'm not going to play all of it.
Everybody, welcome back for another deep dive. We're going to be taking a look at the 2024 Kentucky legislative session using this awesome resource from the Kentucky Association of Counties, the KACo 2024 legislative wrap-up.
That's right. It's chock full of information about new laws and funding that are going to be impacting county governments all over Kentucky.
We've got medical cannabis, annexation battles, and even a program designed to help out some of those struggling water systems across the state. So
I've cut it off. That was all AI generated as well. Those were not real voices. You could probably tell once they said the KACo, right? All I did with that, I took our 2024 legislative wrap-up, the PDF that hopefully you all got sitting on your desks back at the office, right? You read it cover to cover. Uploaded that PDF, and it read it, and has these voices that sound really darn close to having a real conversation, like a podcast, about this content. So AI is here to stay. This is a little bit different, but I wanted to make sure you all heard this, because I know we had the AI presentation at last year's conference, and I wanted to make sure you all still have that on your radar this year as well, because it's going to keep growing. And this year, the legislature actually had a task force on artificial intelligence. And so I was talking with someone, they're like, man, what do you think this is going to mean? Like for the public dialogue, for public space, and how are we going to be able to trust anything? Because now we've got people that you can recreate their image, their likeness, their voice. How are we going to know what's real or not, right? And my answer to that is, it all goes back to what have you established? Where's the trust that you have built with your community already? You need to have already been communicating things and being that source of accurate information. So that way, when there is something that comes up that people aren't sure, like, is this true? Or there is someone that is putting disinformation out there, they know, hey, this is where I'm going. What's my judge saying? What's on the county government Facebook page? Where can I go? So you need to have that dialogue already open with your residents, so that way they know, here's where I can go. Because if you don't have a message that you are already sharing, if you are not driving that narrative, someone is going to drive it for you, and you might not like it, okay? So the biggest and best tool that you can have in your communications toolkit is you being your authentic and transparent and public servant selves in serving your counties. So please keep doing that good work, keep talking with your residents, keep sharing that content with KACo so we can share it out. I love it. And thank you very much. That's my email. If you've got photos or ideas that you want to share about stories, please let us know. And we'd love to keep telling the county story.